everyone, welcome back to the channel. I was really afraid that this month I just simply wouldn't have anything to do, since I didn't really have anything planned, and then I remembered that FUNGUARY exists. And not only does FUNGUARY exist, but this is actually the last time it's being held, I think, at least by Feeful, who is the original creator of it, who is also one of my favorite artists ever, by the way. So I knew I had to do it this time, especially since last Inktober was a super major success for me, and the first time I ever got a project like that done. So yeah, that's what we're doing. In case you're not aware what FUNGUARY is, or was, I'm not really sure what's happening to it after this. FUNGUARY is a February-long art challenge that's all about making different things about mushrooms. And as some of you already know by watching my channel, I tend to draw mushrooms a lot, so this is kind of a perfect fit for me. Luckily for me, this challenge doesn't really have any further guidelines than that. There was some suggested mushroom species, but I usually didn't use those, not because they were bad or anything, just because I had my own ideas. So yeah, this was just a really good chance for me to try out some different illustrations and make some cool stuff. I don't really have anything else to say about it, so let's get started. Alright, the first prompt for this month was Decay, which is kind of a dark one to start with, but it makes complete sense. Mushrooms feed off decay and dying things, that's kind of like their whole thing. So this was actually a pretty obvious pick for one of the first prompts of the month. Even though it's pretty obvious, it almost made it more difficult for me to decide what I wanted to do with it. I was thinking originally I would do something very autumny, maybe with deer skulls or some other sort of skull, or maybe some sort of zombie, or maybe just a different kind of mushroom girl, but all of those sounded a little bit too cliche for me at this point. I really wanted to try to make something cool and unique in comparison to my normal stuff. So my girlfriend, who is Speedpaint on YouTube by the way, suggested that I draw a fox overtaken by foxfire mushrooms. In case you don't know what foxfire is, it's a specific kind of bioluminescence found in specific kinds of mushrooms. It's not really exclusive to one specific species or anything like that, so the mushrooms I drew were kind of just generically mushroom shaped so it was more clear what was going on. But I think it looks super duper cool, and I'm super happy that my girlfriend suggested it because I probably would have been stumped otherwise. I thought it would be cool if I made all the special lighting on the ghost kind of look like a cloud of mushroom spores, because that's how they reproduce, and it's kind of like the foxes living on through the mushroom, I guess, in a weird way. I'm really not used to drawing animals like this. It's not that I don't like drawing animals, I actually think they're pretty cute and I enjoy doing it. It's just that, like, I don't practice it very often because I'm so used to drawing human characters, so it was nice to kind of get out of my comfort zone and, you know, focus on an animal instead of it just being a background detail or a partner to a human character, I guess. So yeah, overall I'm really happy with it. I had a lot of fun with the lighting on this one and doing all of the fun effects and all that kind of good stuff. And I like that it kind of tells a story and looks nice and all that good things. So yeah. Now this prompt was basically essentially made for me. Once again, very broad and very basic for a challenge like this, since mushrooms are associated with fae in so many different ways, but I really love drawing fairies, and I just love drawing anything that's fantasy, so I was really excited for this one. I decided to bring back an old concept out of storage that I have had for years, but just really never got the chance to execute properly. I always had this concept of, like, a kid falling inside of a fairy ring and meeting a bunch of friendly pixies. I don't know, I just always thought it sounded cute and whimsical and all that kind of thing. If you watched my sketchbook tour video, you already know I love drawing these chubby little fairy designs. They're just so simple and cute and fun to draw, and I tried to make all of their colors distinct. All of them also have different mushroom accessories as an extra touch. I think 2 of them have some mushrooms in their hair, and then one of them has a mushroom umbrella, and then one of them has a mushroom hat. So yeah, just to make them match a little bit better, I guess, as little mushroom fairies. For the girl, I wanted her to look a little tomboyish. Not so tomboyish that she'd be necessarily out of place, but just tomboyish enough to believe that she'd be running around and playing outside and stuff like that. As you can see, she still has ribbons in her hair and like a little flower crown. I don't really know if she made the flower crown or if the fairies gave her the flower crown. I guess that's kind of up to personal interpretation. I honestly think both are cute, so whatever. The colors were a little bit tricky on this one. I kept trying to incorporate brown for some reason, and it just was not working. By the end of it, my quote-unquote brown kind of just turned into this, like, pinkish, reddish color, but I think it turned out pretty nice looking. They're very pastel-y. I was definitely trying to incorporate, or I was definitely trying to make it look kind of like springtime, you know, make it feel like the flowers are blooming and it's bright outside and all of that good stuff. I think I was definitely projecting a little bit because at this point it had been snowing and cold and dark and terrible where I live for the last like month or two at this point, so I was definitely very ready for spring to come and take away all the evil, terrible snow. But yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I really love this one. I think it's very atmospheric and just as cute and whimsical as I was hoping it would be. So yeah.
We bring you this message at a weird inconvenient time in the video to let you know Rosie is still broke and still doing commissions. If they are vaguely human-shaped, Rosie can draw them. Sacrifice your character references to her and she will turn them into high-quality artwork. If you're interested, Artistry and Ko-fi links are in the description. Go bother him.
In comparison to the last one, this one was a pretty major mood shift. I usually don't draw things this dark and grimy looking basically ever, but again, this entire challenge really, you know, challenged my art scope and the kinds of pieces I make. I do like darker subject matter like this, and it's been on the forefront of my mind recently, with both of my partners really being into Chernobyl and Fallout and that kind of thing. Speaking of Chernobyl, that's what this piece is based on, kinda. I'm not saying this piece, like, very deliberately is set in Chernobyl, but the mushroom present is based on the fungus in Chernobyl that's been eating away at the radiation there through a process called radiosynthesis, which is essentially photosynthesis, but for radioactivity. It still seems kind of unclear on if this will ultimately clean up the radiation at Chernobyl. There's probably too much there for it to, you know, eat all of it or anything like that, but it's definitely neat, and it might be used later to try and clean up radiation in some less extreme areas of the planet. I chose this mushroom for immortality because of the idea that even in the absolute harshest conditions, this mushroom managed to adapt and continue to live, thriving off the thing that would make it deadly to other organisms. In that sense, I feel like it's a kind of bizarre immortality, the inability to die. Also, if you're a super major gas mask biohazard nerd, like I know some of my friends are, I am so sorry about this most likely butchered ass interpretation of a hazmat suit. I don't really know how hazmat suits work exactly. All I know is that there's usually like a tube or a canister of air, and that's like it. I kind of just mixed together a bunch of different details from a bunch of different ones I saw online to try and make something that looked cool. So I'm sorry if it's terrible and inaccurate. I hope the vibes were worth it. This guy that you're seeing, by the way, is supposed to be a zombie overtaken by the fungus. I like the idea that the suit makes it unclear until you notice the mushrooms growing out from the mask itself. I usually put some kind of grain or paper filter over my art just to give it some texture, but for this one specifically, I kind of went crazy with all of the different filters and textures and all that because I really, really wanted it to look like it was an irradiated, like, photograph. Like, if you've ever seen photos taken at a super irradiated area, it kind of like messes with the digital camera and makes this like very, very heavy grain, so I really, really wanted to try and capture that. Finally, the quote, "You cannot kill me in a way that matters." Stupidly enough, you might actually recognize it. It's from a Tumblr post about how mushrooms are just kind of weird and yeah, they don't really die because they're usually these giant networks. But I kind of tried to recontextualize it. Back to the thing about this specific mushroom living in a hostile environment, its adaptations have made it basically unkillable. You cannot kill it in a way that matters. So yeah, Like I said, piece is a lot different from my usual stuff, but I really hope people like it regardless. It's definitely not my favorite. I don't know if I'm in love with the colors I chose, even if they fit the vibe, but it's someone's cup of tea, I'm sure. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it. If you can believe it, we are already on the last one. Since February is kind of a short month, there was a lot less prompts, and that is okay because I felt like I really got to focus on each prompt and give myself more time between each prompt to chill out, so it was actually pretty nice. But since 2 of these pieces so far have been wildly different from what I feel I usually do, I decided to reel it in a little bit and just kind of make things simple for myself, do something within my comfort zone, which is a cute little alien girl, inspired by 50s and 60s era retrofuturism, of course, because that is one of my favorite aesthetics, and as well, mushrooms, because of course. While Decay and Fairytale were difficult to think of themes for because they were so basic, I felt like this one was hard to think of an idea for because it's very not basic. I have never associated mushrooms with anything cosmic, I think, in my entire life, but I persevere! First thing I thought was the cutest part of any alien girl is her little antenna feeler things, and those are perfect to make mushroom shaped, so I did that. I also kept the shape language going on in her puff sleeves and her little pantaloons, similar to what I've done for mushroom girl designs in the past, but obviously in the context of this being this spacesuit one-piece jumper thing that pin-up-y space girls always wear. What is this thing supposed to be, by the way? I know it's supposed to kind of be like a yassified, like, astronaut suit from a time when they didn't know what astronaut suits look like, but I don't know, it's weird. I also decided to give her a tail to match her antenna, because once again, for cute points. I don't think that tail is necessarily a common alien design trope, but I think it suits her, and it let me add more deliberate mushrooms into her designs, so yeah. For the background, I had this stroke of genius that I could make a UFO extra dome-shaped and draw it with that exaggerated UFO beam, and it would kind of look like a big mushroom. I really hope it reads well, because I thought that was super cool when I first thought of it. I showed my girlfriend and she could tell what it was, so I think it looks right. I also drew the silhouette of some mushrooms growing in the beam? Up towards the beam? I'm not really sure if the mushrooms in this case are being picked up or dropped off. Either way, they're here. They look cool. They give some extra shape and silhouette and all that good stuff. Finally, for colors. I actually had a completely different color scheme picked for this piece, but it was very strong on turquoise and lime green, and I realized not only was it kind of monochromatic, but it looked very similar to the colors I used for the first drawing I made. So I shifted the hues a little bit and landed on this new color palette. I think the blue really pops and differentiates itself, and the colors look a lot brighter and more glowy, which is nice. If you are a digital artist and you are having trouble with colors, please try messing with the hues. It can really make a difference and make really cool looking stuff. So yeah, this is probably my favorite piece that I've made for this challenge. I love it so much. She's so cute. And I'm really, really happy with the colors and the composition and all those good things. I really love the background too. It's so dramatic. It looks so cool. But yeah, I hope other people like her too. Here are all the final pieces! I know they look a little silly and bizarre lined up like this all next to each other, since I really didn't keep to a very unified look like I usually do for these kinds of challenges, but I'm still happy with them. I really enjoyed trying new things to this challenge and creating some interesting pieces I probably wouldn't have thought of making otherwise. Thanks so much for watching! I hope you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, you know how YouTube works, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye!